The indie game that has managed to capture my heart this month was Moonlighter. In case you haven't played it though, I'll give you a quick rundown. You play as this bloke called Will. He seems like a nice chap. You run a shop in this cute little town, and the shop itself is called Moonlighter. Although it is basically just a shopping sim, there's an awful lot more to this game than it meets the eye. Now, I've owned this game a few times, but I've never actually managed to finish it until now. That's not because it's not a good game though, it's actually incredible. It was mainly just because I'd originally owned it on the Nintendo Switch, and sadly my Switch just haven't received very much love from me since I got my PC. Which is kind of understandable, right? Unless I'm playing a Pokemon game, or playing games on the couch with friends, it normally just sits in its case. A few months ago, I saw that this game with all the DLCs was on sale through Steam. It was only like £3, so I had to grab it again, hoping that this time I might actually finally make it through the game. To my surprise, I did actually manage it. Anyway, let's finish setting the scene. So you have this shop, but you need to find stuff that you can actually sell in the shop. Luckily there are 4 dungeons just outside of the town that you can go into and scavenge for different types of artifacts and materials that you can use to both upgrade your equipment and also sell to make some well-deserved money. So, here's what I love about the game. It's hard. Like, ridiculously difficult for a game that I had originally thought was just kind of made for kids. When you start the game, the recommended difficulty that the devs have set is hard, which I thought was strange, but then I was also like, I guess it kind of makes sense. If they want you to play it on hard, then you should probably do that. So that's what I did. I was dying almost constantly, but you soon realise that there are things that you can kind of set up, and there's a few tricks to get you through the game a little bit easier. Making sure to kill all the little red blob things, that gives you the materials that you need to make the potions way cheaper. Then I also realised that you could get a blacksmith in your town, so you could buy better equipment and upgrade the stuff that you've already got. And as soon as I realised all of this, I was kind of onto a winner. And yeah, I know most of this is basic stuff, but I'm not going to lie to you, it took me a while to understand this. I'm going to be honest though, the town is a little bit lackluster, but I don't really think that that's the main thing with this game. You start off with just a shop and a town hall, then you basically progress. You just have to pay to bring a blacksmith in, and a potion/enchantment lady, a banker, who is basically as volatile as the actual stock exchange. Well done on emulating that, it was brilliant. And also another little shop. After all, some healthy competition is always welcomed, right? I would love to say that they all have their uses, but in all honesty, I didn't actually use the other shop at all. In fact, I got to thinking that it would be way more useful than it was, and then I just kinda left it. The blacksmith and potion lady though, they are wonderful creations. They were very useful throughout the game. But anyway, so the dungeons and the shop are the 2 main things that you're supposed to be doing in this game. The other parts are more like just support acts for the main event. There are 4 different dungeons in the game. You have to complete them in order to move on to the next one, which kinda makes sense. Each dungeon has its own theme that they stick to, and this kind of tells you what artifacts you're going to be finding in each dungeon as well. It also will tell you what kind of enemies you'll be facing. All the different types of enemies have their own mechanics, so learning how each of them attack really is key for winning in a game like this. There's one enemy in the DLC that had me extremely confused for a long time, and I couldn't work out how to even damage it. Turns out you have to roll through him first, and that's the only way you can actually attack him, which I thought was a really strange mechanic, but it was interesting that they added something like that in. The dungeons are Golem, Forest, Desert, and then Tech. There is a final dungeon, the Unknown Dungeon, but I'm not entirely sure I would class it as such, because really it's just like an end boss battle, and there isn't very much actual dungeon running that goes on throughout it. But each of these dungeons get progressively harder, but not just by moving on to the next dungeon. Each floor is more difficult than the last, and it can lead to some next level frustration. One of the biggest positives for this though is that with each floor the loot gets better, which in turn just means that you're making more money. I think that this is one of the things that make the game so good though. There's a large selection of games that are made to be difficult. Look at anything with a Souls-like genre. But this isn't something that would really be done on indie games, at least from my experience of indie games. I know Cuphead is supposed to be really difficult, but I haven't had a chance to give that one a go yet. And then the second part of this game that's really fun is the shop. You have the opportunity to upgrade it and make it go from looking like this tiny little shack to basically just becoming a massive emporium. But it still looks the same on the outside. It's kind of like the TARDIS of Doctor Who. It gets bigger on the inside, but always remains the same outside. Inherently though, unless you're into games where you essentially just sim running a shop, this seems like a bit of a slog and a waste of time. But it isn't. It's basically its own little mini game itself within the actual game. There's loads of bits that you could potentially go wrong. You can have thieves come in and try to steal your stock, or even your money. You can also get birds come in and interrupt the shoppers, which is incredibly funny. Now, although these may seem like little gimmicks, they made that bit of the game, which could be the most boring part, a little bit more enjoyable. You also have to price up all the items in the shop yourself. You can get some help with this if you go to the internet, but really it is quite fun to use your notebook to try to find the best prices that you can set for your items. This way you're making the most money you physically can within the smallest amount of time. Now, there is a story in this game, but if I'm being honest, it isn't what attracted me to the game at all. The story's ending was pretty funny, and the DLC does expand on it, so I feel like if you're looking for an indie game with a strong story, I would give this one a miss. But where it really does shine is in the gameplay. The gameplay is so fun. Getting your dodge rolls perfectly timed and managing to take out an entire room of enemies within a few seconds really does give you this strange adrenaline boost that nothing can even prepare you for. If you're like me and you got the game on PC, just try to make sure to use a controller. I was lucky with the fact that I played through the majority of this game on the Steam Deck, but on the odd occasion that I did actually try and use my PC to play it, it was almost unbearable. The devs do know this though. When you launch the game on PC, they have said on it that the gamepad is recommended, which is good that they're not trying to fool people right off the bat. I guess that because it's a smaller indie title and with the way that the gameplay actually works, it's a little bit weird to play on a keyboard anyway. It's almost like dancing when you use a controller, but then as soon as you move to keyboard, it's more like falling over while ice skating. It's very embarrassing if anyone catches you. Now, when I was starting this game, I decided to take a look at the How Long to Beat website. This is becoming one of my newest friends since starting my whole backlog challenge. It told me that you can easily beat this game in just 13.5 hours, so I was impressed. I got straight to work. Now here's where the whole "it's hard" part comes into it. At the moment, I'm currently sitting on around 27 hours. Only 1 hour of that is DLC for me. So I'm guessing that what's really happened here is that either I've been hoodwinked by this website, or I'm actually just really bad at playing the game, and it's a lot harder for me than anybody else who had played this game in order to get that metric. But either way, I really enjoyed this game, and I actually finished it a while ago, but I've kind of been putting off making this video. And by that, what I mean is, I finished it mid-November, but had to wait until December to make this. At the moment, you can grab this one pretty cheap on most consoles, and even cheaper on PC. If you haven't played it, you should at least give it a go, and if you have played it, what did you think of the game? Do you rate it as highly as I do, or do you wish that you hadn't bothered? Remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, it really helps me out, and as always, take it easy.